why are the Browns the only team in the NFL without a logo on their helmet? Well, it's actually one of the most interesting stories in sports that no one seems to know anything about. Let me explain. See, when the Cleveland Browns were founded in 1946, it was actually fairly uncommon for football teams to have any sort of logo on their helmets. However, that quickly changed in the 1950s once teams like the Rams and the Redskins started getting paid by TV networks to broadcast their games. In fact, by 1965, the NFL had convinced almost every team in the NFL to add some sort of logo to their helmets so that it would be easier for fans watching at home to tell them apart. Still, even with this pressure from the league, there was one man that refused to change. Now, if you like sports business stories like these, make sure to follow. Because even though you're probably aware that the Cleveland Browns were named after their first coach, Paul Brown, what you likely didn't know is that Brown hated the idea of adding any sort of logo to his team's helmets, claiming that he didn't want to look like automobile racers on the playing field. That's why it wasn't until after he was fired in 1963 that then owner Art Modell commissioned an artist to design a new look for the team's helmets that would both please the league and give the team a new identity that was separate from its first and only ever coach. But this is when the story starts to get a little weird, because in line with the trend at the time, artist David Boss designed a simple interlocking CB logo to be painted on the side of the team's iconic orange helmets. And after the team won the 1964 NFL championship in their plain helmets, by training camp of the 1965 season, this CB design started popping up in promotional material and merchandise all over Cleveland. But then, when the team took the field for their first game of the year, these newly designed helmets were nowhere to be found. Now, reports of what happened to this logo are conflicting, because while some team officials say that the new helmets were presented to the players and rejected out of superstition since they had just won the championship in their old helmets, players who were actually on the team at the time say they never even saw these new helmets, leading many fans to believe that they never even made it past the brainstorming phase. Still, regardless of what happened to them, by 1965, the Browns were the only team left in the NFL without a logo on their helmets. So maybe the league just gave up on trying to convince them to add one, since their plain lids were now the most unique in football.